Look at this picture. This is the research done into how walking affects our cognitive abilities. And when I first saw this, I was kind of shocked, honestly. I knew that walking had a profound effect on our mind, but to see it visualized here really was just an eye-opener. Like, this is something we have to do. And before I discuss how we can get the most value out of our walks, I want to talk a bit about why we should even do them in the first place. Like, if you're not sold on this idea. Now, the research confirms the benefits of not only walking, but exercise in general. It not only improves your ability to focus, but it improves your ability to read itself and your whole intellectual performance. And that's a direct effect. And this is something you might have seen in your own life with your own family, but you'll know that exercise is essential to longevity. Not only keeping up a long life, but being healthy and active and having your mind stable well into your old age. You might unfortunately know someone who is in their old age who's close to you, and you see that their mind isn't the same as it used to be. And perhaps if we can embed a healthy exercise routine into our lives, we can prevent that from happening and reverse the trend. Because I've heard so many stories of people with 80-year-old granddads or grandmas, and just because they exercise every day, they're still running 10K every morning, or they're still hitting the gym at 90 years old. And it's really a use it or lose it. We have to use our body, or else we lose not only our body, but our mind as well. We lose everything. And we decline into this state that we really don't want to be in. Because the idea that the body and mind are separate is not only ridiculous, it's actively harmful for those reasons. If you neglect your mind, your body will suffer. And if your body suffers, well, then your mind follows with it. So really, there is no room for compromise on this issue. Like, there is no balance. You have to do both. And if we do both, we'll experience not only the effects that keep us from declining, but we'll experience so much growth in all areas of life that it's really essential. And it's such a source of potential that we could be tapping into. So now let's spin this back to walking. Why walking specifically? I'm sure you can relate, to be honest. I don't really need to tell you, but after you go on a walk, your mind starts to whir. You're like a fountain of good ideas, and you get this clarity and mental peace that you don't really find anywhere else. You get to experience the beauty of the environment around you. You get to become a bit more grounded and stable, and your stress is kind of fade into the air. You get to zoom out a bit and see your life in the bigger picture. You ask yourself the big questions, and you give yourself the opportunity to answer them as you walk. You don't need me to tell you that, because throughout history, so many of these great intellectual minds, these poets, these philosophers, these writers, they have affirmed this. They said of the benefits to their work that walking was. So first, Hippocrates said that walking is a man's best medicine. And that comes back to the idea of treating our body properly so that our mind can thrive. Like, this is a idea that goes back 2,000 plus years. It's that powerful. Henry David Thoreau, the writer of Walden, he said that the moment my legs begin to move, my thoughts begin to flow. And that is so true. It's so true. Because when we go out for a walk, we think. And even Nietzsche himself said that all truly great thoughts are conceived by walking. So you have all these philosophers, all these poets, all these writers, even they realize the value of walking. This is a tried and tested recipe for discovery, for insight, and for wisdom. And it really does work well. So now how can we apply it to our own lives? Yeah, it is as simple as literally going outside and walking. But for some of us who don't have that habit, how can you begin to do that? How can you begin to just take regular walks and make it a part of your intrinsic habit? Because you might be watching this and thinking, why the hell do I need tips to go on a walk? Well, maybe you don't. But there's also some things you want to avoid in your walks and some things you may want to add to them to make them better. So I think there's some value in this for everyone. There's about 7 tips here, and I hope at least one of them will find some value in you. So number 1, if you don't already have a daily walking habit, then it's good to start off small. Keep the walk short, keep them low commitment. Maybe you feel like you are better off doing something else with your time. And if that is the case, then you could remove that barrier just by making the walk shorter. Just keep them short, keep them sweet, go around the block, anything. And of course, they'll get longer in the future, because you'll realize the immense value they have to offer. And number 2 ties back to that fear that, and I used to have this. I used to think, I don't want to go on a walk because I want to be doing something else. I want to be working on this, or like writing this essay or something. And I used to have that negative idea that somehow if I just stuck to the work, I would be more productive and I'd get more out of it. But I realized that's kind of wrong because, of course, you can't work forever and eventually you slow down. So what I did was I saw these walks as a tactical break. If you notice that your work is drifting off and it's getting more sluggish, then go on a walk. Because if you go on a walk, you'll come back feeling refreshed. And of course, we've seen the cognitive effects of walking, like how good it is for your mind. And you'll come back and you'll have those exact benefits to then propel you further in your work. So you're getting like the best of both worlds and you're not losing that productivity you believed you were beforehand. Number 3 is another tip that really helped me get out every day. And it's to always have a destination, a goal, an objective. Because I don't know, maybe it's some like autistic trait or something, but not having a place to go to, I didn't like that. I didn't like wandering aimlessly or just walking around the block. So if you say, if that sounds like something that you relate to, then obviously the easiest way to counter that is to just say, I'm going to go to X location. I'm going to go to this pond in this park. I'm going to go to this building in the neighboring area or whatever. Or maybe I'm going to go to the shop to buy this specific thing I need. And by having that goal, it makes it easier to have a direction and to just push you out there. And again, this might sound stupid to you, but it's like so intuitive and obvious, but like not everyone's in the same position. So it might be silly to you, but for others, it could really help. Now, the next thing is about audiobooks and music. Do you listen to them? Because I would argue that you don't. I would argue that our walks in nature or wherever in the city, these are precious times for our mind to just be free. Throughout the day, constantly we are bombarded with stimulation. Like we're always looking at something, we're always reading something, we're always on our phones, there's always a TV on, there's always something that stops us from thinking. Our walks are rare opportunities for there to be no constraints, and it's just our mind with itself, and you get to have that dialogue with yourself. If you carry music out with you, yes, it can be motivating, yes, it can be fun, but then you run that risk of doing the exact same thing, not giving the walks an opportunity to be times where you're alone with your own thoughts. And here's something interesting. Do you know why you only have shower thoughts in the shower? Why are shower thoughts even a thing? Well, think about it. We don't bring our phones into the shower, at least I hope not. And we're not really listening to music there. It's kind of an uninterrupted space. And when you step in the shower, you have nothing to stimulate you. You're just washing yourself on your own. And the reason we have these interesting ideas and thoughts that come to us is because exactly that. There's nothing to stimulate us. There's nothing we receive. It's just us and our mind. And when our mind is on its own like that, we think about the deeper problems of life. We think about who we are and where we are in life. And we think about how we can solve our problems, how we can... And you get profound ideas in the shower. That's why it's a whole idea, shower thoughts. We can basically replicate that effect by walking, and it's even better. But if we bring music along, then we're just cancelling it out and it goes to waste in a way. So if you are going to use music, use it carefully and know that you could be blocking your mind from having this interesting dialogue with itself. Now, number 5 is similar, but it's do you walk with friends or do you walk alone? Now, I don't argue against either of them. Obviously, it's good to walk on your own, but it's also great to get sociable and walk with friends. But you just have to know that if you are with your family or friends and you're talking to them, presumably, then you have that same kind of idea where you can't really give yourself the space to think on your own. So it's just something to be aware of, really. It's not really to avoid or to never walk with your friends again or always walk on your own. It's more about just being aware of it and maybe finding a good balance in your life. Now, this is a small but crucial tip. Maybe it's minor, it annoys me regardless, but it's when you see people, they go on walks and they're always looking at the floor, always looking down. And I just think, and I used to do this, of course, but I just think, why don't you look up? There's a world to see around you. Maybe you don't live in the prettiest area. Hopefully you do. Hopefully there's some nice nature or some nice architecture. But if you go on a walk 20 minutes, come back and all you've seen is the ground, then you're wasting potential. You can look around and see the horizon, give your eyes a rest, and just notice all the intricate details. See the sky above you, see the clouds and how big the world is. And if you're constantly looking at the floor with, the just dog poo and puddles, it's like you're wasting that potential, Now, number 7 doesn't deserve to be at the end because it is really important, and it's to prioritize nature. This really depends on where you are, your situation, but if you can, walk in nature, in a nearby forest you have, in a nearby wooded area, a park. And this is a whole nother topic on itself, like the intrinsic value of nature and how it is really good for us to be in nature because it's our home essentially. But we know that it's attractive, we know that it's peaceful, it leaves us feeling serene in a way. So we can do all these things by just walking in nature. It's essentially all the benefits of walking times 10, just amplified completely. So those are 7 tips on how to either reinforce your reading habit or build it in the first place and make them as good as possible for your mind and for your body. And I hope that at least one of them stuck with you, because these are things that I encountered over my time, and some of them really stuck, and it changed my perspective on how I see walks, and they're not a detriment to our productivity or to our work, but they actually amplify it and boost it and give us a source of all this new insight that we would previously be missing out on. So I really hope one of those helps. And of course, I'll probably link the studies and stuff, and credits to Kajan Koi Academy on Twitter for the picture. They coloured it in, I believe. But that was really useful, thank you. And thank you for watching.